podcast dedicated to all things travel, from our past adventures to our expectations and plans for future trips. We are here to share our stories and advice. We're your hosts, Dan and Marie.
Welcome back to another episode of Between Destinations. I'm your host, Dan and Marie. So on this episode, I thought we'd talk about Marie's second trip to Costa Rica and what some of the differences were between the second trip and the first trip. Now, there was how many years between the first and second trip? Two, which was enough for a few things to change. But so let's talk about that a little bit. How was that second trip different than the first? I mean, obviously it not being brand new, so like everything was not something that you'd done before. It was stuff that you had done 2 years prior. Did that make it in any way, I guess maybe a little bit more relaxing because you knew you really had experienced everything before already?
Yeah, yes. I knew what was coming, but I mean, we did have a bigger group the second time. We had twice as many ladies. And so the dynamic was different. I stayed in a different house. That was fun. And it was just down the road from Marmaris where we stayed the first time, where the other ladies were at. So the dynamic was different, but everything we did was the same event. And we also did, like the second time we went, we got to see the little turtle hatchlings on the beach be released out into the ocean. So Anne had some more experiences for us to do. And I didn't have success the second time surfing, which will make you happy. So I had hurt my wrist and I just didn't have the strength to get up on the board. So it was a different experience because I was just in a different shape than I was the first time I went.
Yeah.
But still fun. But yes, very relaxing. But so was the first trip.
So on the second trip, kind of similar to the first trip, Tree Bird was a motivation to Tree Beard.
Tree Bird.
Oh, sorry, Tree Beard was a motivation to get in shape again for that trip.
Yeah.
But did you do anything differently as far as like getting in shape? Because I know the first time you were really motivated and there was a lot of stuff that you were doing.
No, I was not in as good a shape the second time. And I'll be honest, I was a little lazy about it because I knew what it was like at that point. So I was like, I can get up Tree Beard. I'll be fine. But it was still motivational to get more in shape than I was. But yeah, that's always a motivation, is knowing you're going to do something active and making sure that you can get it done.
So for this trip or the second trip, did you come away with any similar takeaways or any new takeaways? Or was it just kind of, I'd done this before, it was great, I really enjoyed it, I enjoyed being disconnected, but it was kind of just a similar experience?
It was very similar, but I did it because it was similar.
Yeah.
I knew how relaxing it was. I knew I needed a refresher on just, again, focusing on myself, taking care of myself. Once again, I had gotten overcommitted to things, and it just brings you back to, okay, this is where we need to be. And she has these wellness adventure trips every year, but I only go every other year. And so I just knew that I needed to bring some peace back to my soul and get, do some work on my own and get it done. So I wasn't expecting to experience anything different.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only thing different for me between the first trip I went on was the amount of ladies that were there and the dynamic of a bigger group.
Yeah.
So that was really neat because I got to meet, I'm a people person, so I got to meet a lot more ladies and just really enjoy ourselves. But yeah, we did all the same stuff, but the canoeing was to a different location.
Yeah.
It wasn't the mangroves that time, and the the surfing, like I said, was the same. Met at the same beach, but the zip lining was different. We got to see the turtles, which we didn't get to see the first time. There were other hikes that were different that we did, but it's all the same environment, but just a few different changes.
Yeah. So talk about the turtles, because I know that can be a really cool experience for some people, and for other people, it's just be like, oh, they're turtles. So, I mean, just talk about that in a little bit more detail as far as how that experience was for you.
Well, the turtles, they nest and then they have I don't remember the name of the
Like a
place.
sanctuary or something
Yeah,
like
it's a
that?
turtle sanctuary. And they have the nest all at the beach and they know when the hatchlings are coming. And so they prepare for them. And I guess they hatch at night. I haven't seen it. My cousin Ann would be able to tell you all about it. When we drove out there that morning, the hatchlings had already all come out and the sanctuary had got them prepped and ready to go. And they were just going to release them out into the ocean. And they're these little teeny tiny turtles. And so we got there and they showed us and then they put them all out of their containers onto the beach. And you just watch the waves come up and carry them off. And some of them get turned around and are headed back up the beach, but they all know to head towards the water. It was just amazing to watch. So then the next wave comes in. And they've made it 3 feet and it pushes them back 2 feet. They got to go again and they go another 3 feet and it pushes them back 4 feet. And it's just that, bless our hearts. But then a big enough wave comes and just takes them, out. And you have your few stragglers here and there at the end that are just struggling to get caught by the wave, but you don't touch them. You're not allowed to touch them, and you just kind of watch them. And the rescuers will come and get them turned around and get them walking back out to the ocean again. And finally, that last wave comes and takes the last one away. Yeah, it was a really cool experience, but sad because you're watching them all go, and it's like, do they even know how to swim? So,
Bye, little turtle.
yeah, but it was a really, really cool experience.
So one thing we didn't talk about in the last episode when you went to Costa Rica, we just kind of hit on it, and I forgot all about it until this one, was the first time you went to Costa Rica, you were all out on a trail with Andy, one of the guides, and you came across a tree with I can't remember the name of the monkeys, or I can never pronounce the name of the
capuchin monkeys.
Yeah, the capuchin monkeys. They're very curious.
They are curious.
So what was that kind of, because that would have been your first experience with that type of monkey or any type of monkey in the wild, right?
Well, up close, yeah. I mean, you see the monkeys everywhere. They're not afraid of you. They're up in the trees, you know, and so the capuchins, they see you hiking, and so they just kind of, check you out and follow you. And then Andy is the guide, and so he's used to being close to them. Sometimes they're not so happy, but Andy, just protecting, the tourists that he's guiding, he just made this face at them, and bared his teeth and just looked at them to let them know that he's in charge, because that's what they do. They show that they're in charge. And so that was a little freaky. So I was just like, okay, oh my gosh. But no, the monkeys are all around you and they've adapted to people being there. So it's normal for them.
So what other wildlife did you see? Did you see any different types of wildlife while you were on your second trip compared to your first one?
Oh gosh, that was years ago. I couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but I've always experienced something new when we're there. And Eddie and Andy, our guides, are really good at pointing things out and showing us, different animals and stuff. But the very first trip, I got to see a sloth through a camera that they held up to a magnifying glass or something. I mean, so we could see it up in the tree, but to my naked eye, I couldn't see it. The guide, our driver knew exactly where it was. The second time, I didn't see any sloths. So, I mean, it just depends on, what it is and what you're seeing.
So you stayed in a different house when you were there the second time. That house wasn't on the water. Did that kind of change the dynamics of being there and not being right on the water? Or was it still?
Because we could see the ocean completely from our house. And so you're on the other side of the road, but you're at a higher elevation. So the whole scenery was the ocean. So, I mean, you could still see the ocean. You just couldn't walk down to it.
Right.
But you could walk across the road and down to the same beaches. So, I mean, it was literally still right there. It just wasn't on the water.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing that it's probably worth mentioning, that when you go to Cabo Montepalo, I always get picked on. That
always wants to put an N in it.
Yeah, sorry. It's just It's just not my dynamics. The cool thing is that most of the places there, even though they may not be right on the beach like Marmaris is, you still have pretty close access to the water. It's not really a big hike or anything like that to go anywhere. And you still have the beautiful sunsets and all that that you can see. Now, the thing that we didn't know, or I didn't know, and Marie hadn't mentioned it before, was that Andy, he lives on a place right on the beach, kind of like Marmaris. In fact, it's like it's Marmaris.
It is. You said Morris.
Oh, sorry. It's like 2 or 3 like house plots down from where we stayed when we went, which is where Marie stayed the first time at Osa Marmaris. And he actually has like a couple, I forget what you call them. Cabanas to stay in, which was kind of cool. It's something to, if you're thinking about going to that part of the country or, Costa Rica, there's options for staying at places besides like the big house, unless you're with a group. And that house was huge. Was there anything from that second trip that you liked more than the first trip, or maybe didn't like as much?
Oh, I think personally, it was just different to have a larger group in the 2 houses. So like I said, the dynamic was different. It wasn't bad. It was just different. I like the cohesiveness of the first trip where it was just, one group of ladies in one house. And so we did everything together versus, the 2 different houses and trying to, we'd of course have meals together and do all of our main stuff together. But, you'd have some ladies up at one house and some ladies down at the other house. And so it just, not everybody was together all the time. Like, again, I'm a people person. I like everybody together all the time. But other than that, no, the actual activities and the events we did that time were just as good as the first time.
Cool. So that's one thing that's nice, is because knowing that if you go back a second time, that, things aren't so drastically different that you don't get to kind of re-experience that experience, I think.
Yeah. And it's not, again, the whole purpose of me going there again was to experience the same feeling I had the first time. Mm-hmm. So it's not a boring trip at all. And it's not repetitive. Each time, even though you go ziplining 2 different times, it's 2 different experiences with different people. Like I said, the surfing was different because the water was different. The waves are different. The kayaking was a totally different route because we chose to do that too. There's a lot there that we haven't even done yet. So we just chose to do the things that made us happy. So.
Yeah, that's cool. So was it the first time you went or the second time that you went where you went to, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the restaurant that
Martinez.
Martinez, that has the vendors that show up on Fridays?
Yeah, both times.
Both times.
Yeah, that's what you do when you go there. You go to Martinez on Friday nights.
I guess we didn't talk about that in the last episode, but that whole experience going to Martinez and the vendors and kind of the Martinez experience, talk about that a little bit.
Oh, Martinez is a restaurant that's just about a quarter of a mile away from Marmaris, I guess it's a mile away and a little over a mile away walking. Mm-hmm. It's a nice walk, but they serve the fresh catch of the day. So they literally don't post their menu on the wall until 6 or 6:30 in the evening based on whatever the people went out and caught that day. And of course, it's not just fish. So they have other things that they're going to serve as well. But it's very limited menu, like 6 meals. And you just pick from that. And then all the local vendors come and set up tables, and they're selling, earrings and jewelry and, beautiful pottery and just different types of just wooden bowls and just beautiful stuff and soaps, ice cream and homemade ice cream. So good. And it's just their chance to actually sell their stuff. And so you want to buy from a local, because I'd rather buy from them than get something in the airport on the way home. I'd rather support them and give them the opportunity to sell their stuff. So
on our trip home, we did get something when we were at the airport. couple little trinkets. That was cool.
For the kids, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did buy stuff at Martina's too. And it's cash only at Martina's.
Yeah.
So just make sure if you go that you have cash on you, because Martina's and the vendors only take, because there's no internet.
Yeah.
So at Martina's, for the vendors to use.
So one comment I do want to make, her cousin's retreat that she does is called the Wellness Adventure Costa Rica. I think that's what it is on the website. And I'll put that all in the show notes. I should mention that we're not sponsored by her cousin or anything. This is just us sharing, mostly Marie sharing her experience with that. But at the same time, when you get the opportunity to do something and the experience is amazing, which her experiences were amazing. I've heard about this for quite a while. You want to share that with other people so that if they wanted to do that, they would have the opportunity to share that amazing experience too. So like I said, I will include that information in the show notes.
Yeah, and there's multiple. I mean, Anne does a fantastic retreat, but there's also lots of other health retreats and stuff that are going on down there. So I say just find something that works for you.
Yeah.
I can vouch for this one. I see stuff all the time advertised for going down to Costa Rica and wellness adventures and things like that. And I have another friend too that also does retreats down there. I haven't been on one of hers yet, but yeah, just find one that works for you.
Is there anything that any comments or any final things you'd like to share?
No, I know what works for me and what I like. And I can tell you, if you're planning to go to Costa Rica and you want to get off the grid, the Osa Peninsula is a fantastic place to go. It's not touristy. You don't have restaurants. You do have Martina's and a couple of other places like right around there, but they're very small. You're not going to have a tourist attraction kind of place there. It's to get away and get off the grid and enjoy yourself without having to worry about all the hustle and bustle.
I'll include in the show notes some, like the various links to Andy and Eddie and Osa Marmaris, along with the Anne's retreat that she does and some other details. I think in our next episode, we'll dig into our shared trip to Costa Rica. And I think that'll close out this kind of series for Costa Rica. Thank you for joining us. Again, this is Between Destinations. I'm Dan and Marie. Just thank you for hanging out, and we'll see you in the
next episode.
Next episode. Thank you all.
This has been Between Destinations with your hosts, Dan and Marie. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, it would be amazing if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you watched this episode from our YouTube channel, please give us a like and hit that subscribe button along with that little bell so that you can get notifications about our future episodes. Please share this episode with others that would enjoy sharing in the adventure. And feel free to let us know if you have any questions. We may just feature an answer to your question in a future episode. Thank you, and see you next time.